Good morning and welcome to Ed's World, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I'm Jay Edgar, and I am joined once again by the Grand Chancellor of the Freedom Scoop, Jake. Welcome back to Ed's World.
How are you?
I'm doing good. A little bit of allergy season going on down here in Wisconsin. We had one gorgeous day of sun, and I don't even show it right now, and then it rained all day for the last day, so
We had kind of the opposite. We had rain, 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 and then all of a sudden it's sun. So maybe it'll send your way, because I'm farther west. So, yeah. Well, hopefully the allergies go away.
yeah. We've got a pretty packed show going on tonight, but before we get into most anything else, we've got a couple of announcements. As most people across the country know, there was some tornadoes that went through the capital city of Missouri, and they are currently in cleanup mode right now. We are working out some details, but it looks like we have some interest in possibly putting some some t-shirts together for a fundraiser. Looks like probably what we say, $25 a t-shirt if we get them out.
Yep.
We'll have $25 for a t-shirt out there, with all proceeds going to the reconstruction effort down in Jefferson City. There is also some talks right now about one of us from the Freedom Scoop possibly going down there to help with the cleanup effort. We're still working out some details on that, and we're not even sure if that's going to happen yet. But stay tuned to Ed's World as we sit and watch the progressing situation down in Jefferson City, and watch for those t-shirts so you can help out even if you can't get down to get to the cleanup efforts. As I said just before, we have got a pretty packed show going on tonight. There's some major foreign news going on out there over in England and a little bit over in North Korea. So we're going to talk about what happened in Europe and what happened over in Asia. Illinois lawmakers decided to put a push out there to get a proposal onto the ballots to excise Chicago. It may have been dead on arrival, but it brings up some interesting topics, especially with the things that the progressive movement of this country want to bring up right about now. As we always do on Ed's World, we are going to be talking 2020, and Mayor Pete had a brief plan out there, which is also dead on arrival, to try and alleviate student debt. It sounded pretty fishy to me, but we're going to talk a little bit about that, and the three questions that I always ask my guests over here on Ed World, or I can't talk again, over here on Ed's World. Of course, we'll have to go back to the never-ending story and the entire effort of the House of Representatives to try and impeach the president. And we've got some new developments over on that. The House of Representatives made some major changes to the Civil Rights Act and named it the Equality Act. I read through the Equality Act, and I've got some things to say about it, and I'm sure Jake does as well. So we'll talk about that. And for a brief moment in time, the Krasenstein brothers were kicked off of Twitter, proving that Twitter will take people from the left off as long as they break the rules, but all of a sudden they're back on. So we will talk about that. It is going to be all of this and more over on Ed's World. Thanks for watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That helps us move up the algorithms. And hit that like button as well to let YouTube know that this is what people should be watching. And of course, you can do the same over on BitChute, just in case something happens over on YouTube. If you are listening back to this on the audio platforms, thank you again. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the audio platforms. You'll get new content every week and bonus content you can't see on the video channel. If you are watching or listening to this rather on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating and a good review. That really helps us move up the charts. And of course, if you can't find us on any of these other platforms, you can always find Ed's World over on freedomscoop.com. The Grand Chancellor is here. I'm sure he wants to tell us a little bit about that, which he will in a moment there. Or there was a video that was put out last week as well that you can go and take a look at that's got a lot of this in a lot more detail. So we'll look at that. After every week's lengthy introduction, we want to turn the stage over to the guest because that's the most important part of Ed's World. So Jake, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, how are you guys? Hey, so My name is Jake. I run freedomscoop.com. We've got a bunch of good people over there. We've got Ed. We've got the Generation Gap, which is generational gap. We had a discussion about that last week. Ah! And then we've got Stephen Ignoramus over there as well. And we're pulling in some writers and some other content contributors. They should be coming in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a blast. Hey, Ed mentioned that we're going to be doing some sort of a promo. I don't know, how do you say it? It's going to be a donation-based charity thing for the people down there in Jefferson City. They've been hit pretty hard by those tornadoes, and we kind of want to help them out. Hope to get some boots on the ground. If anybody wants to volunteer, or anybody wants to, drive Ed to Jefferson City, hey, we're okay with that too. That'll be coming in the next couple of weeks as they need help, because right now you have a lot of emergency personnel on the ground. But there's a lot of houses, a lot of cars, a lot of people that don't have shoes on right now that are walking around going, what do I do? And in the next coming weeks, they're going to find that they need something. Right now they have a lot of assistance, but really down the road is where it's going to impact them. And so we want to be there for them. So, give us a shout out if you guys want to help. If you have any ideas, any thoughts, any concerns, if you want to buy a t-shirt, we have a couple of deals with a few large, well-known media or apparel people that you guys will rather. We love working with them. I don't want to say too much yet because we're still in the preliminary phases. But definitely let us know. Reach out and we will. All right, we're here.
Well, it's always interesting to talk about the fact that a lot of different people come on the show who are in alternative media, and they all have different stories. One could look at Freedom Scoop and the fact that we aggregate alternative media and call that the ultimate in alternative media. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into alternative media and how you decided to run your own website dedicated to it?
The ultimate in alternative media. I like that. That's good. That might be our new tagline. Way to go, Ed. So we've got, it's been a long time coming. Okay, we've had a lot of different iterations of this, but ultimately, where we're at now is we're beyond the building phase, and we're in production, but we're still increasing support every day. So me personally, I found that there was not enough independent thought out there. I found that there was a lot of these sites that you either made it or you weren't, and there was a lot of this middle ground. People who were working, who had a job, a daily life, a daily structure, and we're pushing forward every day. And so all of us have jobs, and this is kind of you guys talking to yourselves, essentially. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the working man talking to the working man. So if you saw any of our other videos, it kind of threw back. I had me personally, I've worked with a couple of senators. I've worked with some representatives, some congressmen through the years. I've worked with the Republican National Committee. I have a background in journalism myself, but I found that you have to be an established journalist in order to become an established journalist. For example, about a number of years back when I was going to school for journalism, I worked and worked and worked till my fingers were basically raw writing this article. I wrote it took me about 60 hours to write this article for a very well-known publication on the West Coast. And we had a circulation of about 1 million to 2 million people. Mm-hmm. And I was very naive, I guess you could say. So after about 60 hours of work, I turned in my first article, and the editor offered me, about $90 for the article. And I went, wow, that's no good. So then, as the years progressed, I realized we really need a new voice out there, somewhere where we're up and comers, where people who are sort of established, but need to keep growing their base, who are independent thinkers, independent thoughts. They can come together, and that's how Freedom Scoop was kind of born. So yeah. So that's kind of a little bit of background about me. Uh, what do you think, Ed? Was that kind of what you were thinking?
That is kind of what I was thinking. And like I said, the journey is always different, but the journey always ends on the left side of the screen.
You say my journey's gonna end. We don't want the journey to end. We want to keep going.
That's right. Well, it's time, now that we've introduced the guest just had a chance to talk about himself, to sit down and talk about what happened throughout this past week. And even though I'm a little bit uncomfortable doing foreign policy, rather, there's been some major developments in the foreign policy, so we're going to start with that. Starting with the fact that this past week, Theresa May officially stepped down from her post as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. There was an election coming up right away, and it turned out kind of the way that I expected that it was going to, given the fact that we've been teased with Brexit for 3 years now at this point. Nigel Farage took away the night, and even the people who were Eurocentric, rather, really came away with nothing in their hands at the end of this. So, what have you seen so far coming out of the UK as far as May and the new elections that just went on?
So May's got 2 weeks left. So ironically, the first week of June will be the last week of May. That's kind of interesting. So uh, of it, I saw that the Brexit Party, which is about what is it now, six weeks old.
Yeah.
So the Brexit Party that's 6 weeks old is now the largest serving party in Parliament, in the European Parliament. Who'd have thunk?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really this barnstorm movement. I think that a lot of it's been unleashed in the last few months, the last year really, because they had a vote. The people said this is what we want, and the government said, yeah, maybe not. We know better than you guys, so we're not going to quite do it yet. We're going to try a referendum, and we're going to extend it, and we're going to say, well, how will trade work? And the people are like, well, I'm going to sell this to that guy, and he's going to buy it. And the government's like, it's not that simple. What about us? And it's just become this big cacophony, this big groundswell of noise. So I think that things are gonna move forward. I mean, we're seeing it all over the world. We're seeing it in Australia, I believe New Zealand. I believe even Trudeau made a right-hand turn the other day. Literally, he was driving. He had to take a right. I mean, that's about as far right as he gets, though. So we're seeing it all over the world, though. We're seeing this progression, this populist progression. Populism is really surging, and populism in its root is more of a libertarian philosophy. You know, it's independent. It's saying, hey, we can do things on our own. We don't need this globalist movement. It's really awesome. I really like it because I think that humans naturally are free thinkers, and so this globalist movement is very repressive. And so we are seeing independence happen all over the world. It's amazing. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the May situation.
Well, I find it interesting that you brought up the age of the Brexit Party because it seems that the second winner for the night, or at least the second place winner for the night, went to the UKIP party, which is also a very, very young party. That's not nearly as young as the Brexit Party, but it is within the last year, definitely. I know Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, was involved in that. I don't think he was ever directly a member of it, but he was involved with that. Most of that came down to YouTube commenter and avowed Nazi, or at least that's what the left says, Tommy Robinson.
Quick, grab your milkshakes.
Well, that was the other thing that came out of the United Kingdom this past week is that people started throwing milkshakes on people that they don't agree with politically. And the police went so far as to start begging some of the restaurants near the area to stop selling milkshakes throughout the whole thing. And then Burger King had to jump up and step in and say, hey kids, you want some milkshakes?
We still sell milkshakes. That was that famous tweet. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, can you get more blatant? But it was ridiculous. I mean, Well, as long as Burger King's still selling $1.49 chicken nuggets, I'm all right though.
I
That's a
can't get
pretty.
behind them anymore.
You can't get behind him anymore.
I cannot get behind Burger King. Burger King lost it for me when they did the chick fry stunt.
So I actually have a rant video that the other day I made and then never posted because I never post any of these things. But I was so mad. I had this kid looking at me like, uh, what, what do you want? I said, I want your number five, the double. Is the number five a double? Yes. Do you want a single? No, I want a double. I was so mad. Then he calls his manager over after I've given up on the double hamburger. And I said, I give up. Just give me a chicken sandwich. And the manager comes over because I got to call her. So she comes over and she goes, and she's pressing buttons. Like, I mean, it was like she worked for NASA or something, some sort of rocket science she's doing back there. Press beep 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 beep. And she finally goes, sir. And I said, yes. She goes, the number five isn't the chicken sandwich. And I said, I know! I've given up on the hamburger. I just want a chicken sandwich. Ah! So that was my Burger King experience the other day. I was pretty frazzled when I left there. I wanted to throw a milkshake at the lady or something, just didn't. But I was afraid if I asked for a milkshake, she'd say, "You want to make that a double?" No, just want a milkshake. So yeah, I don't mind. I still like Burger King. I'll still take them any day of the week, I guess. But they need to be paying me to say this, but they're not. So whatever. Fine. So
Well,
what else do we got in the news, Ed?
well, the thing with the milkshake attack, it was so funny, and there was so much backlash on Twitter to the fact that people were going out and throwing milkshakes because so many people that were in favor of the UKIP party, especially over here, were saying the same thing. Well, it starts with a milkshake, but what happens when they start turning it into a brick?
To a brick.
Yeah.
Well, I would prefer. I don't know. Do you remember the movie Pulp Fiction? On Pulp Fiction, they go to the milkshake place, and she goes, "I'll order a $6 shake," and he goes, "A $6 shake? That must be a good milkshake, And they take a drink and whatnot. But maybe it was a $12 shake. I don't remember. I love that movie though. So if I'm going to pay good money for a milkshake, it better be thick like a brick. Like I want to be sucking up cement powder, or not powder, but like liquid cement. I don't know. I like a thick milkshake. So I guess they could be painful if they're thick enough, but I don't know if Burger King makes that thick of milkshakes.
I don't.
Burger King's going to be like, slander. And I'm going to be like, prove to me that you make a thick milkshake. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I don't think that they make a milkshake rather quite that thick. What do you think about the symbolism of this and the fact that so many of the dissidents are using something as nonviolent as a milkshake to try and make a political statement to it?
I use an ice cream cone to make a political statement. Freedom scoop of ice cream. But that's mostly
That's a
because
fair point.
we all deserve a scoop. We all deserve 2 scoops. Why not? So I think that if we look back historically, we have used nonviolent things to make a political statement. The Boston Tea Party, for example. And that was tea thrown overboard, but everybody knows of it. Um, and through history, there have been kind of these items and these triggers. Now, do I think that we're going to say the Tommy Robinson milkshake incident was the world shaking thing? No, but we are seeing these political attacks come from inoculate things that we used to think were nothing. A red mega hat, that, for example, all of a sudden that is a symbol of white supremacy or racism or division even. But really all it's saying is, hey, let's build this country back up, if you take it literally. And yeah, we've made these very benign kind of milk toast things turn into something of political importance and expedience, and that's a problem. We need to move forward, but we're seeing that is spreading. It's not only local, it's becoming decentralized and it's moving across the globe into Europe, into there's these attacks on populism in well, I mentioned Australia earlier.
Hmm.
Um, what's really interesting to me is speaking of foreign affairs is that we don't see, which we don't see this sort of uprising in, let's say, mainstream China, where there are some really bad dudes doing really bad things. Um, but
Would
I
you
think it'll
say
move
bad
there.
hombres by any chance?
Bad hombres. Yeah. Did you see Shinzo Abe yesterday?
I did not.
Oh my goodness. So there's this picture that Japanese foreign minister or his staff, I don't know. I don't read Japanese, so I don't know who tweeted it. Their name was in Japanese, so and they had a picture of Japan. So somebody from Japan tweeted this picture out the other day or yesterday, and it's a picture of Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister of Japan, and Trump because he's over there. President Trump is over there meeting with him right now,
Hmm.
and they're eating some like I don't know Japanese traditional dish, and Trump is like gladly talking to him, and then there's like Melania over here, and you can tell that Trump and Melania are both like, "Can we just get a Burger King cheeseburger?" Like that's all. They just want a freaking milkshake.
Hmm.
But Shinzo Abe is serving him traditional Chinese food. But still, I mean, it's going great. I think that we're seeing. I hope that these benign objects stop becoming tools of manipulative politics. That's what I hope. I don't know if that'll happen. Maybe we'll have to fight each other with chopsticks someday. I don't know.
Well, going back onto this populist movement and the fact that the Brexit Party did take quite a share of the vote over in England. That wasn't the only country over in Europe that had anything like this happen. Marine Le Pen won out very, very handily down in France, and even or Italy rather now is being served under a populist minister. So yeah, it's not just England, and I think that a lot of this is going to come into some very Eurosceptic ideas.
Was it Nice or somewhere in France? I don't recall the spot, but I don't know if it really matters. Like last year, there was an election issue, and they said, "Hey, I don't remember if they were saying they were their own country or whatnot. They were seceding or whatnot. They didn't want the tax. I think it was some sort of a tax issue,
Hmm.
and they voted. And guys in full SWAT armor stormed the election booths. Do you remember this, Ed?
Vaguely, I read a couple headlines about it, but I didn't see too much else about it.
There were videos of people, just French shoppers, French people going down this escalator coming out of the voting office, and SWAT gear clad police officers hitting people with batons, running up the escalators to go steal the voting boxes because they said that it was a illegal election, basically. But and it was something like 70 or 80% voter turnout. And they said, "Hey, we don't want any part of this stuff anymore. We don't want to pay these taxes." I think it was Nice or one of the high tourist towns. Somebody out there knows. I don't know. If you know, I don't know. Let me know.
Well, France is an interesting idea as well on that because, they just had the Notre Dame burned down, which was like a symbol of France. And I don't know what happened there. You don't know what happened there. Most of us don't know what happened with Notre Dame and why it burned down, but there is still talk out there that it was an Islamic terrorist that burned the building down, that it was a directed attack to that. And I have to wonder if that didn't play on the fact that Marine Le Pen did so well yesterday over in France as a populist and a Eurosceptic.
Well, rumors can be heavy.
Yeah,
So
that's.
we have a large cathedral here in town. There's a couple of them, but one of them's rather big.
Mhm.
And not a week or so uh, after all that happened with Notre Dame, that tragedy, and the steeple collapsed, our large cathedral here in town actually caught fire. The basement had a fire. They had left something going, and anyways, it went up. It didn't collapse; it just caused a bunch of damage. The fire department's like 4 blocks away, so it came pretty fast. But yeah, there was a lot of skepticism and a lot of talk, especially over the Notre Dame fire, of what happened. Um, And I think anytime skepticism is in the air, people wonder and they start questioning. And questioning is good because you want to know the truth. Um, I don't know if it was any sort of an attack. I don't know if it was an accident. I know there was some roof work being done in the attic, and they claimed that it started in the attic.
Hmm.
Generally speaking, fires don't move downward.
Right.
If they start in the attic, they stay up.
Right.
So I know that that led to a lot of suspicion. They said, well, if the roof caught fire, the only way that it would have moved down is if flaming parts were to have dropped. Could have happened.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
possible.
it is definitely logical and possible. But that's up to the fire inspector. I'm not over in Paris looking at that right now, so I can't judge. But that skepticism being out there does lead a lot of people to say, hey, we need to second guess some of these things. It's the reason the media here in the U.S., anytime there's some sort of a problem like the Kate Steinle murder or something like that, if there's some sort of refugee problem where some illegal immigrant maybe murders somebody or kills somebody, all of a sudden the media decides they're not going to cover it. Um, and a big portion of that is because they want to control the narrative. And they know that if that one bit of information is out there, it can drastically shift elections because people then go, wait, maybe this isn't the best way to do it. Maybe these open borders policies, maybe bringing in thousands of refugees, maybe that's not necessarily the best thing because a lot of them aren't traditional refugees in a sense.
Right.
We don't have refugees like we did 50, 60 years ago. Um, our refugees are, a lot of them are motivated by promises, by social systems, by welfare systems, um, by capitalism. And some of them they're not actually fleeing some tyrannic oppression. They're fleeing poor economies. They're fleeing poor leadership. And it might not be leadership to where they're breaking into your house and stealing your kids. It might just be leadership where they're making bad policy decisions and corrupting the government, taking all the tax revenue, and these people are fleeing because of that. Um, so, yeah, I think that that's a big part of the Notre Dame issue. Yeah, I think that populism sweeping across Europe is personally, I think it's a good thing. I think people look out for themselves; they look out for their country. But that's just personally me. I think that independent thought is good. Yeah, there you go. Put that on a bumper sticker.
In the interest of time, I think we should possibly move on into the next topic here.
I agree.
This is considerably more local, especially to me, being as close to Illinois as I am. And with some of the fears that I had when I heard about this, anybody who saw my solo video on Friday would know how I feel about this topic here. Illinois lawmakers in Springfield on the GOP put a proposal together to try and get a ballot initiative put out there so they could vote as to whether or not to push Chicago into statehood or to otherwise excise Chicago from the rest of Illinois. This proposal was completely dead on arrival, but it brings up a lot of the topics that the progressives are trying to push down onto us currently in this country. Illinois lawmakers knew that this wasn't going to really go anywhere, but they still had to put the proposal out there. And a lot of this spurs around from underrepresentation. Now, I know with you being from Montana, you have an idea of what underrepresentation could be. Not necessarily what it is, because you have senators to keep the balance out there in the Electoral College to make sure that you do still have a voice out of there, but those are two things that are under attack from the progressives right now, both the Senate and the Electoral College, because it gives disproportionate voices to states like Montana and Wyoming. So,
Well, we have, you know, 12 or 12 or 13 people in this state, and we've one representative. I know there's been a lot of talk about perhaps expanding that, but the problems that occur are small to a lot of people, but big to a lot of us. Because, well, for example, there's this big push on this war on coal. Okay. And we have a lot of oil and a lot of coal that comes from Montana. We've got a lot of natural resources here. One of the biggest things recently, for example, is Washington State has started restricting or attempting to restrict the ability for us to use train tracks to export that coal and that oil to the coast. Well, that's our access route to the ocean.
Hmm.
That's our access route to get supplies to California, to China, to a lot, to the whole Pacific. Uh, and so, us having one representative and two state senators really restricts our ability to have a voice. Now, when you move to a popularity contest, when you move to a majority mob rule, uh, then our voice goes down even more.
Hmm.
Because, sure, you might have, let's say, I don't know the actual numbers, but let's say it's 40% in the state of Washington, the east half, that will be lean to the right or more likely to be liberal on the coal issue.
Hmm.
Um, you have places like Montana where we might have 40% of Montanans on the left that are against coal, but
Hmm.
60 or 4. But the problem then occurs with those 40% from Washington not really caring about the coal issue and them saying, we don't want coal going through our state. Well, then it shuts down our jobs. It prevents us from being able to export properly. Um, it really hurts our economy economically. Um, so I think that a representative Congress is the best Congress to give everybody an equal voice. Now, as far as Illinois wanting to annex Chicago
Excise,
and
not annex.
excise,
That's the other direction.
excise, gotcha, to excise Chicago, to move Chicago out of Illinois, then it gives Southern Illinois and a lot of the other more rural areas essentially less of a say in representative standpoint.
Right.
Um, the I guess the only good argument you could have would say, well, then we'd have two more, maybe right-leaning senators,
Hmm.
but then it would be the same balance where you have too many senators and not enough representatives. You have the stalemate that we have now where it's just a war back and forth and back and forth, which, I mean, maybe that's a good thing. Now, if you go to the popularity contest, you go to the mob rule, then it really starts messing things up because uh, then you have centers like Chicago dictating what Springfield does, what all the smaller areas in Illinois do. Um, it's bad. It's bad. Yeah.
Well, and that's a big part of the reason that this push has gone. This is not the first time this push has happened. I can tell you that from living so close to the Illinois border for my entire life. Um, a big part of this is the representation to Washington, as you say, because especially on the senatorial side, Chicago puts up their two senators and vote for them, and nobody else in the rest of Illinois gets a say. But a lot of this also happens with the representation to Springfield itself. There are 74 Democrats in Springfield State House right now, and 63 of them are from Chicago.
True. How is that right?
Well, that's
How I
just
mean, how is that right? So somewhere outside of Springfield, I don't know many Illinois towns, but let's say somewhere down in the southeast corner of Illinois, somebody says, "Hey, I want to put a well in," and somebody in Chicago says, "Well, no, you're going to dry up the all the land, and we're not going to have any water anymore." Okay, that person in Chicago has no idea what's going on down there. They're not on the ground. They don't see it. They don't know the flow rates or whatever. And that's the biggest problem is it goes back to that independence thought. These people need representation for them in their district. So if they excise Chicago, maybe it'd be good, but you'd have to pull representatives from other states. So you'd have to pull because we have basically a set number of representatives.
Hmm.
I mean, Chicago gains, let's say tomorrow, 10 million people plop down in Chicago. They wouldn't just add more representatives to our Congress. That's not how it works.
Right.
We have a set number of representatives. So you'd have less representation. And then same with the state legislator. I believe Illinois is one of the states that's the exact same, where they have a set number regardless of population areas.
Hmm.
So Chicago keeps growing. They get more representation, and the rest of the state just lacks. So, yeah, well,
Well, and it's not just the well issue either. I mean, if you look at all the issues that go on in Illinois, they all spring out of either Rockford, which is more murders per capita than Chicago is, obvious or
yeah,
oddly enough. Smaller city, more murders per capita, or the laws come out of Chicago, and I'm talking about things like regulation for manufacturing or agriculture, even though nobody in Chicago knows anything about agriculture. I'm talking about things like taxation. I'm talking about things like gun laws. Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, and 90% of the landmass of the state has no problem with guns.
yeah, right, right. And that 90% of the state is probably the area that needs the guns the most. They're in rural areas. There's reasons for it. You're farther away from, law enforcement officials, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, uh, yeah, I know from living in a rural area myself that there are about at least 90 days a year where if I didn't have a firearm with me,
Hmm.
uh, I would be in direct. Uh, my life would be threatened. My family's lives would be threatened. Anytime you leave city limits, and even in city limits, sometimes there's some sort of creature, animal, whether it be a grizzly bear or a mountain lion, that are trying to eat me. Literally, it's trying to eat me. And it sounds like I live in the woods, but I have a Krispy Kreme 5 minutes from my house. You know, I don't live in the sticks. I mean, maybe on some people's uh, ideas, but like I said, it's there are areas, and I am sure Illinois is the exact same way, where when you don't have the government there, when you don't have law enforcement within 30 seconds from you, um, you need protection. So the gun laws are there in place, being restricted, but really I don't know. That's neither here nor there. We need to equal representation deserves these people deserve equal representation. And when Chicago's trying to, if Chicago takes too much of the vote, um, so I'm really torn because maybe they should kick out Chicago. It might
Well,
be good for the rest of the state.
one of the things that worried me about that the most when I looked at that is I was actually somebody had said to me years ago, "Oh well, Chicago used to be a part of Wisconsin," and I looked that up, and it sure enough it used to be.
Did it really?
Yeah. So one of the
That's
first worries that
pretty.
I had when they were talking about that was, okay, are they going to give this back to Wisconsin? Is that what's going to happen? And I'm
Yeah, you guys should have Chicago.
fuck that.
The Green Chicago Packers. Sounds
Oh, I
good.
mean that would make Bears and Packers games interesting.
Yeah, right,
Absolutely.
right.
But I think to
Dumpfire.
myself, Tony Evers and the teachers union that put him into place over here now. What is that guy going to think when he suddenly has a million new votes that would go straight to him with no question about that, just because he's got the D next to his name? I'm sure he would
Yeah,
welcome Chicago with open arms.
yeah.
The funniest thing about
Yikes.
that is the fact that the reason Chicago is in Illinois comes from what started the Republican Party to begin with, and that's free statism.
Right, right. Yeah.
Illinois, the border was supposed to stop at the very bottom of Lake Michigan initially,
Huh. Okay.
but because it was so much further south, so rural, and so close to places like Kentucky, the people down in that part of the state wanted Illinois to enter as a slave state. But
Ah.
Mississippi had just entered the Union as a slave state. So the Free State advocates wanted Illinois to enter as a free state, so they borrowed 50 miles of the state from Wisconsin,
I said, "Hey,
including.
Wisconsin, can we have this little chunk here?" And they're like, "Chicago? Yeah, nobody wants Chicago. That'll never be anything."
Well, and there were
Oh,
manufacturing centers in Rockford and Chicago, and the major shipping port to get everything out. So, I mean, it was a win-win for Lower Illinois at the time when it was all developing. But now we have an interstate system. Now we have a rail system that goes back and forth everywhere. So Illinois would not necessarily need to have Chicago anymore
well, in
to be
back when
competitive.
we were independent federalist states and we didn't have this monster federal highway package, um, you wanted areas like Chicago to be in your state because that provided a tax base so rural areas could get things like running water, electricity, et cetera,
Hmm.
because the taxes were based on the whole state.
Hmm.
The state tax was your primary tax, not like now where our federal tax, that pays for a lot of those issues. Um, so yeah, so that makes sense. I mean, you wanted high population centers in your state. States like Montana, we were just, getting eaten by bears up till about 20 years ago. I don't mean the Chicago Bears. I mean like grizzly bears and stuff. We still are, but you know what I mean. We don't have any population here. That's our problem. So, yeah.
Well, in the interest of time, I think it's time that we look on to what's going to be happening in that massive federal government coming up in the next year and a half. And that
Massive
is
government.
and that is going to be our watch on 2020. Now there isn't a lot of news. That's right.
So I just so we're talking about 2020, I just pulled it out of the bag. It is pre-creased. I just want to point that out. So Swalwell, when he shows the picture of his door with the American or the rainbow flag and it's all pre-creased because he just pulled it out. I did the same thing. I'm just as cool as Swalwell.
No,
I
it
just wanted to point that out.
no that hangs up there
Pre-creased.
365 days a year.
Mine too. Mine too. That's. I mean, it's around for 300. I mean, okay, maybe it's not up on the wall for 300. What do you expect me to do? It's replaced by like my Flag Day flag, my Tuesday flag, my Wednesday flag. Thursday, I don't have anything up because it's for cleaning. Anyways, it's up there 365 minutes of the year. It's there. I'm telling you, just like Swalwell. So pre-creased, we're good to go. All right, back to 2020. Since he's running,
Yeah.
I think he is. He's got at least 0.5% of the vote, and
Well,
then he had his dog Penny out there campaigning for him today. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
His dog's out there in front of the Washington Monument. He took a picture, and he's like, "Just give your pennies to my dog Penny. That's all that we need to keep my campaign going." And so I looked up his net worth, and Swalwell's net worth on the first site I went to said negative $499. And I'm like, that can't be right. So I looked up the next net worth thing. It's like negative 48,000. So yeah, so Swalwell really needs your pennies. So if you've got some pennies, any sort of pennies, some JC pennies even, he needs them. He needs them because he's got big high hopes. Yep, high hopes.
Well, Mayor Pete has some high hopes coming into this election. Did you see any of this?
Mayor Pete.
Yeah. Mayor Pete had come up with an idea to try and alleviate some of the student debt by having a limited wage job that you could go and work voluntarily to take down your student debt. You'd still take a little bit home for payment, but for the most part, all of your money would be going into the student debt, and that would be essentially going.
So it'd be like working for a coal mine and having your coal mine own your general store. Oh, and own the house you lived in.
Mhm.
And then they also own the car dealership that they sold your car for. And the only way to heat your house is by the coal that the coal mine produces. So your take home pay is about 12 cents an hour, basically, is what he's saying. He says, yeah, you need to work for the company store.
Well, the biggest fear that I had when I actually read this article was the fact that this appeared to go back into an idea of indentured servitude because you willingly
Exactly.
went into the debt that you are in, and now you are going to work for the government to pay off the debt, and you are working for the government for a set amount of time, and you can't be released from it. So this kind of makes me feel like the Democrat Party is going back to being the party of slavery.
They never left. That's what I don't understand. See, that's not even a pickle. You can't say, "Oh no, they walked themselves into a corner." They never left the corner.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the biggest problem. They have manipulated the narrative so people believe that things such as socialism, such as a 70% income tax, that's normal now, and that's ludicrous. So if you're going to have some sort of a student debt,
Hmm.
and then you're going to say, well, I'm going to go to school for philosophy and potato baking. And by the time you're done, you're $70,000 in debt. The only thing you know how to do is talk about baking a potato. Okay. You can't expect to get a job doing that. So of course you're going to have to go into and it's funny because I make these jokes like philosophy and potato baking. There are actual people out there taking college courses in potato baking. Really?
Yeah.
Like you take a potato, you wrap it in tinfoil, you throw it in something hot. Options. Ovens.
Well, you got to take that class so you make sure that you don't put it in the microwave.
Ovens. Barbecues. Campfires. Maybe hold it over Eric Swalwell as he talks and just catch the hot air. Okay? There are unlimited ways to bake a potato, and you need to give me $17,000 a semester and I will teach you them. How's that sound?
Yeah.
I think it sounds great for me. And that's just your potato class. Then you got to pay for your philosophy class, your lodging, and then your 70% tax on top of that. It's nonsense. Let's just go out there. Okay, I'm beginning to get on the boat of not everybody needs to go to college because you're going to go to college for philosophy and potato baking, and then you're going to grow up and run a falafel shop, and none of it's going to be relevant anymore. Okay, so yeah, I that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Yeah, indentured servitude.
Well, I mean, that's how the whole slave trade started way back in the day. It's people that had gotten into debt. And it wasn't just Africans. There was a big movement of indentured servitude in Ireland. We had a lot of that coming over here as well, but
Phone ringing right now, Ed.
is it for me?
Somebody's calling me saying, "Hey, can I talk?" And I'm like, "No, I'm busy. Phone, go away."
Maybe it's somebody
So
that wants to talk about potato baking.
I don't know. It's somebody like, "Hey, I saw you on Ed's show. Can we talk about potato baking?" Well, for $17,000 a semester, yes. So, as far as the indentured servitude and how the slave trade started, how it came over, um, I have heard every sort of story.
Hmm.
When you actually look back in history, um, the Ivory Coast and some of the areas in Africa there were people coming from all over the place.
Hmm.
And it was not a simple subject. It's not just a bunch of white men running through the jungle, capturing native Africans, throwing them on boats, and then taking them over here. That was not all that happened. There were groups that advertised these ships, these slave ships, and a lot of them were African companies that advertised these slave ships almost as like luxury cruises. It was like, hey, come jump on the boat and we're going to take you to another country. It's going to be America. You're going to have a job. Things are going to be good. And these people get on this boat, and 3 months later, they're in America in shackles. Okay. So there was a lot of that going on. But then there were also people who said, hey, if I get on this boat, what happens when I'm there? And that's where the indentured servitude comes in. There were a lot of people who were promised a lot of freedom. So you come, you work for 10 years, then you're free in this new country. Um, and that ties right back into uh, your college thing, where you're saying, hey, tie yourself down to this job for 10 years, and at the end of 10 years, your debt is paid off. But that's not how jobs work. That's
Right.
not how they should work. You should go to work and you should earn more money than you make 100% of the time. There is not a job that you should get paid the same amount as what you earn. If you work at McDonald's flipping hamburgers for $7 an hour, you should make the company more than $7 an hour.
Right.
That's why you have profit. That's why you are there. You are there to make money for a company. That's how a job works. If you don't like that, become a business owner. Then you work and you make all the money except for the stuff you pay in tax. So really that's what it boils down to is this is it's just not how jobs should work, because anything where you pay a large chunk of your money to pay off a debt and you're obligated to work is slavery or some sort of indentured servitude.
Hmm.
So anyways, that's my rant on that. We're probably running long on time already, I'm
Oh,
sure.
we are. We got a lot to
Oh
get to
yeah.
too, but there are three questions that I always ask in this segment here, and they all tie along to the same thing. And I have a feeling that Swalwell's name is going to come up in this because you had your bash at him earlier here. But looking at the 2020 Democrat clown car and everybody that's on it currently, from a purely statistical standpoint, looking at all the factors, looking at the polls, looking at just what we're looking at right now, and I'm always interested to see how this changes from week to week, from person to person, and from week to week. But statistically only, who do you see making it to the end of the primary race and standing on the stage against Donald Trump in the debates?
John McAfee.
Defend.
Well, uh, I think that he's slightly clinically insane right now. Um, he's wanted by the IRS for not paying taxes for 9 years. He's an eccentric millionaire, I think, currently living in Belize, and he's currently running for the Libertarian ticket. He has like 1 million Twitter followers. He is the most likely person to charter a helicopter and drop onto the stage next to Trump. Now he probably will be tackled right after that, but that's my consensus on that. No, I think that Warren's got a big war chest. I
Okay.
think Biden's got a big war chest. Um, I think that we're going to have a wild card in the next 6 months. Could be Pete Buttigieg or Buttigieg or Buttigieg, whatever you say it. Could be the Pete guy, but I don't know. But I think we're going to have a wild card. Somebody is going to ascend the ranks. Somebody is going to fall, whether it be Biden or see. I don't see Harris really moving very much. I think Harris is at her cap.
Hmm.
I think Booker, he's resorted to stand-up comedy now. Um, I think that most of the Democrat 2020 contenders are we're seeing them fall. Poor Bernie. Bernie is dying, literally and figuratively. Um, I really think the only hope Biden has at beating Trump is to challenge him to a boxing match. That's the only chance Biden has.
Hmm.
Biden and Trump need to go toe to toe in the ring. Um, but yeah, I think that you're going to see maybe Warren. I think Klobuchar's out, and I think that Swalwell. I don't even think that he's anything anymore. Is Avenatti still in there? Or
No, he's in prison.
oh man, dang it! Because I'd give him like a 3% chance. So I liked Avenatti. He was funny. He made me laugh. So I think it's going to be Biden and Warren. Honestly, I hate to say that though. I think Biden's going to come up against something, though, and something's going to take him down a notch or two. That's why it's not going to be Biden Trump only. I think we're either going to have a Bernie or a Warren. Who else do we got? Who else do we got out there? Have I missed anybody
You
important?
missed a lot of people.
Like who?
Well, there's 25 people running, and you mentioned
Well,
eight.
we got the mayor of New York, and he
Oh, De
doesn't stand
Blasio,
a
yep.
chance. De Blasio doesn't stand a chance.
Gillibrand.
There's about who?
Gillibrand.
Oh, I don't even think that she's polling in the negative digits. Like she's is she still running? Like she might be jogging on a treadmill. Like I'm running for 2020. I don't know, but I think she fundraised. I read like her fundraising in the third quarter or something was like $75,000, and I was like, there is no way. That cannot be true. I mean, maybe that was like one fundraiser or something, but I think Trump could send out a tweet that says like, "Hey, everybody, dig in your couch cushions, pull out a couple of dollars, and send them to me," and he'd have more than 75 grand. I'm serious. Like one tweet and bam. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess major contenders are people who make the most noise. So, unless, there's a Texas guy.
Beto.
Texas guy. Yeah, Beto. Beto's got at least a 1% chance. But no, I think I think we're going to see Warren and Biden, because Warren's got her skeletons out of the closet,
Yep.
and Biden is still a skeleton in a closet. Um, so, yeah, I think that's about it.
So,
So,
on a
Biden,
non-entertainment value, then.
Warren, Sanders. Those are my three, but Sanders is third, and that's a rough third. It's a rough third. So I
So,
think I think somebody else is going to enter the race though, like the Starbucks guy or no, Starbucks guy's officially entered, but
yep. Yeah,
somebody
he
else
is
is
in.
going to enter, and that might take him down a peg, or Biden's going to fall. Like it could be a Michelle Obama, could be a Michelle. That's scary to think about, but uh, yeah, yeah.
So on a non-entertainment standpoint, because that'll be the next question, but on a serious standpoint, then, who do you want to see personally get to the end? Who do you think is your best choice to get to the debates to battle against Trump?
Ooh. So strategically,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think Sanders pulls weight away from Trump. I think Biden holds what he's got and doesn't gain any more. Um, who do I want to see? I think uh, Mayor Pete, is a scary wild card. Probably Beto. Honestly, probably Beto. If I had to say who do I want Trump to go up against, it would be Beto, because or De Blasio, because Beto and De Blasio both have enough in their closet that it would be a war, knockdown, drag out. Now, who do I think is going to be? I think that Warren is an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
She would be scary on a debate stage, as crazy as she is. She would be scary on a debate stage. I've seen some of her interviews and some of her past stuff. Um, Biden is going to throw a couple of one-liners, but I think Trump could throw him off balance. I really do. I mean, Hillary had a hard time when Trump's looming over her shoulder through the whole debate. She had a hard time holding her cool.
Back
And
off, you creep.
it was awesome. That was a great strategy. I mean, yeah, that was an awesome strategy. That's why, like we talked about it a week or so ago, out of all the conservative pundits, who would you like to see in a debate, or who would you like on your side in a debate? And I was totally like, man, I want Alex Jones. because Alex Jones is so insane. He would be awesome on your side. He'd just be screaming and turning red. Gay frogs, gay frogs, gay frogs. And you'd be like, whoa. And they wouldn't know what to do and you'd win. So, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I feel that Booker's like that. I feel that Trump's kind of like that. He'd throw Biden off. But no, yeah, in the end, I think we're going to see. I think it's going to be Biden, Trump, Biden polling at 42, Trump polling at 46 in actual polls, not, CNN's nightly poll where Biden has 98% of the vote. Trump has, it's like 96%, but they're all Russians,
Yeah.
That's CNN's polls have like 102 or 200%. But that's about it. I think that it's going to end up being Biden Trump, and I'm going to be sad. But I don't think Biden's going to pull over 42%. Yep.
So, last question, and this is where we get to have a little bit of fun. Pure entertainment value, no statistics, no ideas involved. Who do you want to see on that debate stage next to Trump for purely your own sick, twisted entertainment?
John McAfee. John friggin' McAfee. Oh my goodness. Have you seen this guy?
I have not.
This guy's great. You need to look him up. He's polling pretty good too. He's insane. He's the guy who created McAfee security, cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he's on the run from, I believe it's Guatemalan authorities for killing a guy. Then he lived in Kentucky for a little while, and then he didn't pay taxes for 9 years. He owned like 15 houses that were multi-million-dollar houses. Then in 2009, they all went kaputs. And then he goes, screw that, I lost a bunch of money. I'm not paying any interest or taxes on those things. So now he's sailing in a yacht somewhere across the Atlantic Ocean. I really like this guy. Like, yeah. How about Keenan Dunham? Keenan Dunham. Let's see him against Trump. That'd be kind of fun. But no, I think a lot of these small guys are the ones. De Blasio would be really fun. Trump, De Blasio. Could you imagine the two of them? That would be fun.
Yes.
I think Gillibrand would have a meltdown halfway through. Klobuchar would just get all stone-faced and become very serious. I need to tell you something about debating Trump, and you'd get really creeped out, and then eventually the debate would be over. So that's a Klobuchar debate.
Klobuchar would throw something at him.
Yeah, like her shoe, or a milkshake. Probably a milkshake. Keep them milkshakes away. They're scary, Tommy Robinson. So, yeah. So the actual contenders, I'd say McAfee. Totally, he's great. He was the founder of McAfee, or however you say it, cybersecurity, in the late 80s, early 90s. He worked for NASA, I believe. Then he went to work. He founded that, and then they kicked him off his own company. Like his name, he is McAfee Security, and they were like, "Get out, you suck." So then they were sold to Intel, and then they went bankrupt or whatever. They fell down the tubes. So. And since then, he's just kind of done whatever. I think you should look into him. He's a fun guy. Have him on Ed's World. That'd be a fun chat. So, yeah. So that's about it. Probably De Blasio, McAfee, or, yeah. I don't know. Anybody Trump debates will be fun. Biden or Sanders, Bernie, not as fun. Because Bernie's just Mr. Socialist, and Trump would probably be like, "You're a socialist," and then do your Bernie voice.
Oh, I want my pudding cup. I can't debate anymore. He is right about me.
No, you're wrong. You don't get pudding. That would be their debate right there.
Pudding is a basic human right.
Pudding is a basic human right. Trump would be like, "God, toilet seats are a basic human right. You socialist garbage. Go away." That's about it. That's yeah. So there we go. Well, we're running long.
Yeah,
These people don't want to look at me anymore.
Well, we've still got a couple of things to jump through here, so I'm going to take a couple things out of this next news bit here, but we do have to talk about the never-ending story. And of course, we're not talking about the great 80s movie that everybody loves. We are talking about the
Ooh.
fact that the House of
Remember that
Representatives
that
is.
thing that flew through the air, that never-ending story thing? That's what my hand was doing.
Yeah.
It was
No,
that.
Sewell and I
Yeah.
talked about that last week. The House of Representatives is still trying to find a way to impeach the president. They are going to super impeach him so they don't have to get him through the Senate even. And
Yeah, nasty.
this past week, Congress issued a congressional subpoena to several different banks that the Trump organization has worked with over the last 10 years and forced them to release many of Trump's financial documents. The call, of course, is to see if the Donald is engaged in any sort of foreign business or is taking foreign bribes right now. The problem with the subpoena is that under normal circumstances, with a subpoena you would get from your municipality or your courthouse, this would right now violate the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment because they're excessively investigating something that's already been investigated. But Congress has a near limitless power of subpoena that requires legislation to be involved in order to do so. Now, the articles of impeachment could be a legislation, but this all looks like a grand overreach of power right now. Have you seen anything on this Wells Fargo story already?
Oh, not as much as I probably should have. But, you know, I think we have a problem. And it's not as much constitutional as much as it is contradictory. So, government employees produce stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
The White House photographer takes a picture and it's for the White House. Most of the time, that's public domain,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, what I want to know, private organizations like the post office and NASA, those guys are annexed, but the IRS is not. So, why isn't anything produced by the IRS public domain as long as they're a public employee? I would think that these documents should be released to the public, especially people like Pelosi. We were talking about this the other day. Pelosi's been in Congress for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that anything she produces follows under the public domain category. Any bill she writes. Um, so I would think that she is public domain essentially. So her taxes and stuff should be public domain. I would think that the IRS produces it. I don't understand why it's not. They're not a restricted organization, and they produce thousands and thousands of documents a year that are official.
Mm-hmm.
From my understanding, the only area within the government that restricts the IRS is the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
They are that well of a reaching organization. So Wells Fargo releasing banking information. Now that is something that I think that could be fought on a private level.
Right.
They cannot release those records because they have a confidentiality agreement with their consumer, their end consumer, which would be President Trump or whoever. You, me, whoever they're banking with, they can't release those. Congressional subpoenas, I don't think, and I could be wrong, but constitutional rights shouldn't be able to be violated by personal citizens. And congressional subpoenas force a personal citizen, or in this case, a corporation, to violate a constitutional right. So from that aspect, I don't think Wells Fargo can do it.
Well,
they shouldn't. They
I was
shouldn't.
going to say
be
they've
able to
already
release
done
it.
it, but
Well, I mean, I think that once pursued, it can be overturned. You know what I mean? Like, I believe they're in violation. Is essentially what I mean.
well, I don't really. I look at Wells Fargo and I don't necessarily believe that they are particularly in violation yet. And that's just based on the fact that Congress is not a law enforcement agency. So they don't need a warrant to issue a congressional subpoena. They just need a probable cause of the fact that they are making a legislation with the information they are gathering from the congressional subpoena.
So I don't know particularly whether a subpoena is a direct request.
Hmm.
Like, okay, so let's say I have a warrant and you have a congressional subpoena. What trumps what? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What's more prominent? See, I thought a subpoena was a request, and uh, should you violate that subpoena, then a judge has to rule you're in violation of that subpoena.
Hmm.
So I think Wells Fargo could have said no. Then what?
Then the House of Representatives would have had the Sergeant at Arms take the president of Wells Fargo into custody until he complied.
Right. So see, and that would be the law enforcement stepping in. I think that should have been done. I mean, maybe Wells Fargo didn't want to go through the ringer, but
Well,
I think Wells
Congress.
Fargo could have then sued,
Mhm.
you know, violation of privacy.
Well, Congress has to go differently than going through the executive branch, especially given the fact that they are taking records from the head of the executive branch right now. That's why the Sergeant at Arms of Congress has the official power to take people into custody rather than having the DOJ do it. Because the DOJ is a part of the executive branch, that would be a conflict of interest on the DOJ at that point.
Yeah, I think it's nonsense. I think personal records like that, banking information, IRS information, uh, should be privatized. It should be private, person to person. Um, and I think any violation of that uh, without consent. I mean, really, if the IRS finds no flaws, how is Congress going to find a flaw? I've had IRS down my throat before, and they are not fun to deal with. They pick you apart. They are the one organization you cannot avoid. And I think that if they look over Trump stuff and they say it's all legit, then Congress should just say, hey, it must be legit. But that's personally how I feel. I don't see Congress seeing anything that the IRS doesn't.
Well, the thing that got me too is that Congress right now is calling for all of these records. And Mueller just got done doing his report. And he had a criminal warrant that he could subpoena these records for. And I guarantee you that he did. I guarantee
Oh,
he
yeah.
combed through every one of those with a fine tooth comb. A lot of that was in the report. Why is Congress going back to do the same thing at this point? And is this an overreach of power? Is there legislation that they have written or they're trying to write based on these documents? Because that's the
Because
only reason they have limitless powers if they were trying to make a law out of it.
they want to lose. I don't understand why these guys are masochists. Okay. Most of the country at this point's like, hey, just let him finish out his term. Let's try to beat him at the ballot box. But they're like, let's push for impeachment. Nobody wants that. Nobody on either side. There's this far, far extreme left that wants it. I mean, it's probably the same amount of people as the far, far, far extreme right that want Pelosi impeached. Hey, my phone's ringing again. I am popular today. But that's about it. I think that that's what you're going to see. You're going to see. I turned it on silent just for you. So I think that's what we're going to see. I think that they either have to moderate, back off. They're not obviously pushing any sort of legislation. They do have the power of the purse and the power of war. So are they planning on starting a war? Are they planning on uh, changing tax laws based on Trump's financial records? Um, I don't see any of that happening. It's all nonsense.
Well, you and I talked a little bit off mic about this next topic here, and that was the Justin Amash thing and his
Yeah,
major tweet storm. Because you said you were a fan of Amash for his libertarian leanings, but you didn't know what to think about that. So tell me a bit about that.
I don't know. I think that I liked it back when people were cookie cutters. Like, I liked it, 10 years ago when If the Republican leadership said, "Hey, do this," the rest of the Republicans said, "Yes, Baba Hotep, Baba Hotep." And they just followed, And all of a sudden, Amash is like, "I want to write a book." And he comes out of his stupor and he's like, "Oh, yeah, that guy's a bad guy. We don't like him anymore." And I'm like, "What? You should like him. Okay? He's on your side." Ah! So this goes back to what I was talking with the Gen Gap last week on. We were talking about some libertarian philosophies, and maybe we have a third party forming in the United States, and that third party would be a strong libertarian party. I'm not talking to Gary Johnson party. I'm talking to John McAfee party. A weird libertarian. We're gonna have like this independent populist party, which realistically Trump should have been. Okay,
Yeah.
he ran as an independent, and uh, I mean that was blatantly obvious. Um, and I think that that's what we need. I think we're going to see this libertarian party form. We're going to have people who are in Bernie's camp join it. We're going to have people who are in Trump's camp join it. The problem I see is we're going to have a parliamentary style house where you have different factions, like the Freedom Caucus. They're part of the Republican Party, but they screw things up all the time. You're like, I want coal to be deregulated. And they're like, no, we want everything to be deregulated. And you're like, but how about we work on coal? And they're like, no, how about we work on everything? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I see that happening. Presidential wise, though, the problem is we're going to have some executive victories on the more left hand side of things. If we start getting, let's say, two right leaning candidates up there year after year after year after year,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to cause some division. And we're going to have some progressive bull moose parties appear, So, anyways, yeah, Justin Amash. I like the dang guy. I think that his policies are correct. But he should just toe the line. That's what I wish. I wish he'd toe the line, but he won't. Whatever. Maybe that's why he's a libertarian, because he doesn't let other people tell him how to think. Damn guy.
Yeah. Well, and he said that there was something impeachable in this record that we've all read at this point.
But I still don't understand it. I've asked people this. I said, well, what was it? And they say, well, it was all of the stuff in the record. So what in the record was the impeachable offense?
Well, he obstructed justice.
He obstructed justice. Well, how did he do that? Well,
He was planning it.
Yeah, he attempted. He attempted to, affect this by saying stuff. So what crime was committed? How do you obstruct without a crime? I'm sure we've all heard this before. And there's no answer. There's no answer. You can't obstruct if there's no crime. What are you obstructing? If I say, hey, you're obstructing traffic, you have to be in the middle of a street, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be standing in your front yard, running around in circles, and then I say, hey, you're obstructing traffic. You're not. You're not in the middle of the road. You're not in the middle of the highway. You're standing in your front yard. And that's exactly it. There was no traffic. There was no road. There was no path to some sort of a crime. Collusion isn't a crime, by the way. Not a crime. Sorry, not a crime. There's nothing on the books that says it is. Otherwise, you could say everything is collusion. You could say appearing on the Fox News channel while Fox is colluding with you. You could say, being endorsed by Justin Trudeau is collusion. Oh, well, I don't know if you'd want that endorsement, but it could be considered collusion. And that's why collusion is not a crime. Now, conspiring with a foreign power, that's a whole different thing. But we have no evidence of that. We have evidence that a foreign power may have wanted things to go one way, but we also have evidence that that foreign power wanted things to go the other way too. They bought ads for both Republican and Democrat parties
Hmm.
and posted them on Facebook. They posted Bernie, tons and tons of pro Bernie ads. Okay, so does that mean Bernie was colluding?
Well,
That's
he
the
did honeymoon
question.
over there.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And he went on his honeymoon and he sang the Russian anthem. So maybe Trump was colluding with Bernie to steal the election from Hillary, who stole the election from Bernie. All right, that's how it happened.
What about the impeachable crime of making progressives cry?
I think that should be an award. I don't think that should be a crime. I think we need a cash prize. Like we need a guy standing with some sort of a trophy or even a plaque, a medal, maybe like a mug. Like if you had a mug, you just had a mug that every time you made somebody cry, you got the mug for free. Like, and it had some congratulations you made. I don't know. I think Trump needs something to happen. Uh, we should make him a Freedom Scoop award. I think he'd accept it. I don't know.
Maybe.
That'd be cool. Like, yeah.
But speaking of making progressives cry, the House pushed a initiative to change the Civil Rights Act to make it illegal to make progressives cry, or at least change the language of the Civil Rights Act to include a lot of different groups that were not originally in the Civil Rights Act. Now, a lot of pundits came out right away and started saying the fact that this was making Christianity and other religions illegal. I did not verbatim see anything like that in there, but I can see where some of these pundits were going when they said things like that. Have you read the Equality Act?
I think that anything, personally, legislation on equality is legislation restricting equality.
Hmm.
We have articles like Title IX
Hmm.
that affect schools where each school has to have, our students have to have equal representation for sports or for anything else for males and females. So if you have a football team, you have to have a cheerleading squad. If you have track, you have to have it for boys and girls. If you have men's basketball, girls basketball. So one big issue is there are schools that might want to have something such as wrestling, but they don't have a female oriented program to counterbalance that. So they end up getting these things like drill squad or uh, things that people aren't as interested in and funneling money into that program. And it really does create it rather than creating some equal balance. Uh, it kind of gives an ugly stepsister approach to a lot of these programs. Um, it's not good. And I think that a lot of the Equalities Act do the same. So if there's two people competing for a job based on race or skin tone or um, personal preference, whether they're Republican, whether they're Democrat, whether they like Justin Amash or not, then that's restrictionist at that point because you're forced to go with one party over the other based on some identitarian politics. Um, so yeah, I think the Equalities Act should just be abolished. If we're truly equal, why do we need a law telling us that?
Well, the thing with the Equality Act that really bothered a lot of people, especially over on the right and especially on small government ideas, was that there was a specific line in there saying that all businesses do have to cater to all people and cannot discriminate based on race, sex, or religion. But now it goes further and now it adds the language of sexual orientation and gender status. One of the weird things that came out of this is there's also an amendment in this line that changed the language to say to include movie theaters, bakeries, shops, stores, and etc. And they specifically put bakery into that, which really bothered me a little bit because I know where they're going with that.
What in the hell is gender status? Okay. Status is something that is fluid that can change. So now, can we just change our gender at will? What is your
Apparently.
status today? Well, uh, my left half feels like a male, but my right half feels like a lactose intolerant pigeon. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. What does this mean? So I think that gender status is it's like opinion. Let's just throw some opinion into our law. What do you feel like? And then how do you know? Okay, if I tell somebody I don't want to work with you, how do you know that it's because for example, you're transgender or whatever, okay? If I say, look, I don't have any rentals available right now, and I have 5 rental properties, and you say you're telling me that because of my gender status, because today I'm a female, but tomorrow I might be a male, and I say no, it's because I have people living in all these houses right now. How can you prove in a court of law that it's because that day uh, you had some change in your gender and I noticed it and I discriminated based on that? You know, it's all perception. Perception cannot be law. I don't even know what to say to that. Perception cannot be law, and if you have a law based on perception, it's ridiculous. That's it. Anything? What do you think?
Well, that is part of it. Yes, is law should be based on facts, and facts don't care about your feelings. To borrow a line from the great one.
No, no, that's Ben Shapiro. The great one is Mark Levin. Get your
Fair,
pundits right,
fair
Ed.
point.
That's right. I said it. That's right. You're a jerk. Go. There's Levin.
But regardless of that, and one of the things that kept coming up me, like when I was reading through this and I was looking at some of the left commentary to this, there's a big perception out there that there are landlords everywhere that are denying properties and rentals to people who are homosexual. That's actually some of the wording that isn't in the Equality Act. Is that actually happening?
How many people are homosexual?
That's like 13% of the population or something like that.
Because so then we have to say, okay, so 13% of the population. How many of that 13% are being discriminated against? So I don't know. Let's say 1 out of 13. So that would be that would be 1% of the population would be discriminated against based on this. So now we have to prove that those people are being discriminated against, and how many of those are actually being discriminated against, and how many of those people are oversensitive babies who are saying, I'm being discriminated against. No, you're not, man. I just don't have anything to rent to you right now.
Or your credit score sucked. That's the other thing.
Yeah, your credit score sucked because you spent all your money on eyeliner and never paid your car payment for 6 months. I don't know. That's my personal opinion on that. I don't know. It's nonsense.
Well, and that's part of it too, because let's go back to the credit score sucking for a second. If you go out and you try to rent an apartment and your credit score sucks, and you decide, even if you're straight or bisexual for that matter, you decide to go run to your lawyer and say, well, this person didn't rent to me because I'm gay. That changes the rules of credit right then and there, and that prices out apartments for people like me who are straight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That knocks some of the people off that have stellar credit scores that
Well,
suddenly can't go out and rent anything.
well, this goes back to an argument I had a few years ago. It was a debate, and it was, I don't know, I think it's somewhere on YouTube. So we were discussing race and statistical race. So if a woman says, I don't date black men,
Mm-hmm.
is that an inherently racist statement? Maybe, maybe not. You need more information. If a woman says, a white female, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
says, I don't date black men because, when her answer is, they're black, that's racist. Okay? if she says, I don't date black men because statistically speaking, uh, African American males are more likely to be aggressive in a household than white males. Okay. Statistically speaking, that is correct. And that is not a racist statement at that point because you're looking at it. It's no different than saying, I don't drive a Ford because statistically speaking, the transmissions go out more often than, let's say, a Chevy.
Hmm.
That might actually be backwards because I've had a lot of problems with my Chevy transmission. Engine's great, transmissions suck. But statistically speaking, that is not a racist statement. Now, when you go to this credit score thing, statistically speaking, I don't know what the percentage of transvestite females are that have good credit. Okay,
Hmm.
but perhaps it's low. If we looked up those statistics, maybe it's low. Okay, so maybe because of different, from a philosophy standpoint, if I went to school for philosophy and baking potatoes, um, from a philosophy standpoint, maybe you could look at it and you could say, okay, so people who are transsexual tend to be more liberal in their thinking. Maybe they're more relaxed about their budgets, so they don't necessarily pay their bills on time. So statistically, they might have less um, than perfect credit scores than, let's say, a white male college grad who has a family of four. Let's just say that statistically. I don't know. I don't know these. This is just theoreticals at this point. But then you start going into this and you start uh, analyzing it and you say, okay, so these people aren't being discriminated against. They just have bad credit.
Hmm.
And then all your calls for equality go out the window. So I don't know. The bake shop, Masterpiece Cake, is that what it was?
Yep.
Masterpiece Cake Shop.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, that was just utter garbage because I think anybody should be able to tell somebody else to go shove it if they don't want you at their business. And when you do that, then that person can say, hey, that guy kicked me out because he doesn't like me because I'm gay. And everybody else in the community then says, well, I'm not going to go buy cake from that cake shop because they discriminate.
Hmm.
Okay. We don't need a law to tell us that.
Right.
I don't go to a Mormon church or a Latter Day Saints or a Jehovah Witness church. I don't go to them not because of their because I'm discriminating against them. It's because I don't like their views and they don't like my views.
Hmm.
And it's nothing against them. My neighbor's Jehovah Witness. He's a great guy,
Yep.
but I don't agree with him on everything. And that's the same with a cake with a bakery. If you don't agree with them on everything, don't patronize their business. It's that simple. Maybe they go away. Maybe they don't. Just because you don't like somebody doesn't give them the right to exist. Quit discriminating against cake shops.
What about the other direction, though? That's an interesting topic here. As close as I live to Madison, there's a good chance where people would start to recognize me if this whole Freedom Scoop thing takes off and I get famous here, where some of the people over there would ask me not to be in their establishment based on my
Yeah,
political views. Madison would be one of the best places for that.
I've had that happen here in town where I live.
Yeah.
Um, so there is a specific hotel here in town
Hmm.
that uh,
Excuse me.
I was with a very close friend of mine, and a popular thing, I don't know about Madison, but here in good old Montucky is all the young guys drive around with big flags out the back of their truck, and on the flag it has like pro Trump, or maybe it's just an American flag or whatever. Um, see these a lot. I was with a good friend of mine who was driving his 18-year-old son's truck,
Hmm.
and it had a big American flag and a Trump flag on the other side, one on either side. And it was this big dually diesel pickup truck. And we pulled into a fairly well known hotel. And I said, hey, is there any daily discounts you guys have? I have some people coming in from out of town. And the gal goes, no, there are none available. And we said, well, normally you do. And she goes, Nope, sorry, sir, it's full price. We don't have any daily discounts, because normally if you go up to the counter, you could say, can you match Orbits or can you match, an online
Right.
deal? She wouldn't do it. So we left, and the friend of ours that was staying in that wanted to stay in that hotel pulled up to the same hotel about an hour later in his little Toyota Prius, walks in and goes, "Hey, I saw this deal on Orbits. My friend said you wouldn't match it." She goes, "No problem. We'll match it, no problem." I guarantee you it was because of our attire. Okay? Because I had a Keep America Great Again hat on and we were driving a Trump truck. Okay? So I've seen that firsthand. And you know what I did? When he came back out, I said, "Are you really getting a room here?" He goes, "No, I'm leaving." And we went across the street to the Hilton. So, yeah, don't patronize a business at that point. So I think that that's going to happen. We're going to see that happen more and more unless this political climate dissolves, which I think it might because we're all gnats. We all have short attention spans, pretty much.
Gnats don't make it long in my house.
Well, that I don't think we make it very long. 80 years really isn't that long, you know. We're just all egotistical and we think we're going to live forever, but in the grand scheme of things, 80 years is a blink. So yeah, sniff your armpit, Ed. I'll do it too.
Scratch
No,
or scratch the top of my head, which is what actually happened.
they're gonna recognize you in Madison as the guy who went like this.
Well, we are over time here, but I got one more quick hitter topic to go, and then we'll run through the outro here. And that is the fact that Twitter prevailed to go after somebody whose ideals align with theirs. They had another reason to do so, but the Krasenstein brothers and their famous resistance movement both got kicked off of Twitter this past week. The reasoning that Twitter gave was the fact that they were buying bot accounts to use them to pad their numbers in order to get more influence on the network. There's no confirmation as to whether or not this was true, but yes, for the majority of the week, both Krasenstein brothers were removed from the platform. And you had, again, some interesting thoughts about this that came off mic, so
I think that there was evidence that it was true.
yeah.
Um, I know a little bit about back end work on programs and whatnot, and they can see things happening like that. And if the Krasenstein brothers post a tweet, and within 30 seconds there's 60,000 likes from profiles that went directly to their profile and then liked that comment, they can kind of tell, hey, something weird is going on here. People don't usually log in and go straight to the Krasenstein brothers page. At least I don't. I mean, maybe there are people out there, I don't know, but
Well, yeah, there might be some ideological differences in that one.
yeah. But I don't log into Twitter and go to anybody's page personally. So that's kind of how I see it. I think that Twitter knows something that we don't. Um, they still owe $10,000 as far as I'm concerned, because I believe it was Brian Krasenstein before the election said if Trump's not impeached in the first 2 years, I'll donate $10,000 to a charity, to a conservative charity. I don't remember that ever happening, and I never saw the $10,000 check, and I'm pretty sure I have a screenshot of it somewhere. Maybe I'll post that because, hey, yeah, there's that. Then if they are using bot accounts, it just shows how freaking corrupt it is right now on the social media sphere. There are these major influencers that Twitter they prioritize in your timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen it myself because I have business profiles and personal profiles, and I've seen it where I'll post a tweet on a personal profile, then I'll go to it on the business profile and I'll pull it up and I'll hit the refresh button and I'll scroll through comments. I'll scroll through my timeline for 5 minutes and I won't ever see that tweet. How does that work? Because you can adjust your timeline by popularity and by most recent.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm on most recent, I still don't see it. So, and that's not always. That doesn't happen 100% of the time, but I've seen it happen before.
Well,
And
they do that with Cortez too. I've noticed. Uh, 3/4 of the time when I refresh my timeline on my computer, right on the top is Miss Ocasio Cortez, right there, saying
yeah,
something less than intelligent, usually.
hmm yeah, and it's that's kind of how it is. It's they obviously have an algorithm that censors or monitors stuff and then prioritizes some stuff over others. And the Krappenstein brothers, sorry, Krasenstein brothers, I misspoke there. The Krasenstein brothers uh, have some issues that they need to get resolved, and they are prioritized by the Twitter. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see what happens when, let's say, you retweet them
Mm-hmm.
and then you do a post. Maybe I'll analyze this. If I retweeted them and then I sent out a tweet right after that, something totally different, see the amount of impressions on that second tweet versus tweeting, let's say, somebody like Trump, let's say retweeting Donald Trump and then sending out a tweet, seeing if your impressions were different. You know what I mean? Seeing if you can trick the algorithm.
Well, see,
I
the
mean,
problem with that is, under normal circumstances, they were permanently banned, and you wouldn't be able to do that.
that's
But,
true.
but they are back.
They're back.
As of today, they have been reinstated to Twitter for
So they're Twitter
reasons unknown.
zombies.
What's it?
They're Twitter zombies.
The Walking Dead?
The walking
The
dead.
Tweeting Dead, I should say.
The tweeting dead. There we go. There we go. It goes back to the dead voting in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just all plays together. You know, when the Democrats need some votes, they find a few thousand dead people to vote for them. This is the same sort of thing. You know, they get deleted off of Twitter. Oh, we don't have our influence. Let's just revive them back.
Oh,
Like
and here I thought
vampires.
you said the dead voting in Florida, and you were talking about Robert's age or something.
Oh, Robert. I didn't know you were still alive.
I am planning that in there just to see if he watches this episode to the end.
Embalmed in the fluid. That's why he sits there all the time, and you just see this. You see this. You see. And then the rest of the time, he's just sitting there like this. Because he's actually a robot or a zombie. Yep. Those things kill people. Don't smoke, children.
I did it for a lot of years. Did you see that they're trying to make a proposal to make the smoking age or the age to buy 21?
I think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because then so I think that the drinking age should be lowered to 18. Personally,
Yeah.
I think that if you can go to war, you should be able to drink a beer. You know, maybe liquor. Keep liquor at 21 if you want to restrict, but at least beer it. You know,
Well,
I don't
and
know.
there again, just like with the liquor, just like with the beer, just like with cigarettes, you raise the age to 21. What stops 12-year-olds from getting their hands on them?
I think getting a freaking college loan should be raised to 21.
It's a fair point.
I think that would be more practical than restricting people from smoking a cigarette. I mean, your college loan is going to lead to indentured servitude. I guess that's not quite death, but you know. All right.
Well, that's all I have. But the last thing that we always do over here on Ed's World is we try to end everything on a positive note. So, Jake, tell us about a hobby that you do that has nothing to do with politics or has nothing to do with work. It could be an album that you're listening to, a video game that you picked up, or something that you do to unwind out of this negative world of politics and the stresses of work.
Well, uh, right after this, I'm going to go pick up a sleigh bed for my kid. So that's kind of fun. Um, I like to fish. I've been fishing a lot. We went and fed the fish today. Uh, I do that too. I feed fish. There's a big place in town with a big pond, and you throw out food, and the fish all jump, and it's awesome. So yeah, I've been fishing a lot. Caught some pretty nice cutthroat the other day, and some rainbows. So that's about it. I like to fish. I don't have as many hobbies as I probably should. I tweet a lot and look at you guys weird and go, hey, look at those guys up there on the Twitter. But that's about it. Yeah, I should have more hobbies. I just remodel my house and fish. That's about it. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks to the audience for watching this show all the way through if you got here. Remember, if you want to continue the conversation, the best place to do that would be to either email me, edsblogtwitter@gmail.com, or over on Twitter, that is at edsblogtwitter with a 1 in place of the I. If you want to continue the conversation with Jake, Jake, tell us where they can find you.
Oh, you can head on over to freedomscoop.com, or you can jump on Twitter and find me at RealJake1776, or at Scoop of Freedom. That is our Freedom Scoop official page. Woo! Yeah, be sure to check out Ed's weekly videos, and then also check out the Generational Gap. They have their videos there, and Stephen Ignoramus, he's got his, and he's kind of interesting. We were discussing earlier, Stephen, if you're watching, whether his background is a cardinal or alien dude. My vote is weird, pudgy alien dude. Maybe an aardvark, because an aardvark is an alien, right?
Apparently, but it's still a cardinal.
I think we should call it Juan. Juan, the cardinal, and then Juan can be an alien. Get it?
An illegal alien?
Hey, we don't want to discriminate here. You know, everybody's just human. So, anyways, yeah, an illegal alien, totally. Named Red Cardinal.
As always, thank you for watching this over on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. That tells YouTube what people should be watching. And why don't you subscribe as well? Then you get alerts to when the videos come out and get a chance to watch them as they come out. You get 2 solo videos every week and the podcast every week. And you get the same thing on BitChute. Why don't you head over there and subscribe over on BitChute and hit that thumbs up button as well. That helps us move up the algorithms. If you're listening back to this on an audio platform, thank you again, and please be sure to subscribe over that audio platform. You will get your weekly show over on the audio, and there will be bonus content you cannot find on the YouTube or the BitChute channels. If you are watching this or listening to this over on iTunes, please leave us that 5-star rating and a good review. That helps us move up the charts. And if you're listening to this anywhere, why don't you head on over to freedomscoop.com and, like Jake said, find all of these great creators, plus writers that we have to come, and a lot more information there. Remember, as you go out into the world, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Jake, you have last word.
Adios, amigos.
Take care, everyone.